I'm joined now by Ed Adkison, a former Riverside City Councilman who owns a civil engineering firm. He came in second place in Tuesday's election, and he will be facing first place winner Rusty Bailey in a runoff. Thanks for joining me, Ed.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here today.
Well, I just wanted to ask you a few questions. Looking ahead to the November runoff, at this point in time, what do you think you're going to be focusing on in the runoff in your campaign?
Well, we're going to be focusing on the issues. We're also going to be focusing with 7 candidates. It was hard to define each of the candidates, so there'll probably be a little more definition. We'll look at things like experience, past accomplishments, and some of the major problems that you've solved in the city. So those some of the kind of a preview of coming attractions.
And one of the things that you talked about in your campaign was getting the city to be more fiscally responsible. If you're elected mayor, what is your plan for that? What do you plan to do?
Well, one of that is to basically sit down with the city manager, look at the budget, go over line item by line item. It looks like we're going to be in a deficit budget next year, and it looks like that is not going to be as severe as what we thought it was at this point, but we still need to be responsible for it. It's the taxpayer's dollar. But I suspect the following year, as the state pushes down its programs onto the local level, that we're going to even be in a further deficit.
Now, you had talked on your website about possibly proposing some sort of pay cuts for the mayor and the city council and trying to trim the budget of the mayor's office. Is that something that you still plan to pursue?
Yeah, I think you have to lead by example. If you're expecting some of the organized labor to take cuts, that you start at the top. I think there's room to cut money out of the mayor's budget. You'd probably cut it in half. As we move forward, and there's other things you need to look at as well. So one example would be the red light ticket program is losing about $500,000 a year, and we have to take a look at the value between safety and is the safety equate to that $500,000. So those are some of the things we need to take a look at.
Okay, and just to put it in a nutshell for people, if you were elected mayor, what are a few key things you try to do in your first 100 days in office?
Well, naturally, the budget is very, very important, and that would be one of the things I'd focus on. But they've looked at this next budget year was going to be, or projected to have, a $10 million deficit, and it's going to be less than probably $1 million. So I would probably, in the first 100 days, is look at job creation and economic development throughout the city, and we got some ideas on how to move that forward. One of them would be to assess how the manager has an economic development plan that he has in place. There's a lot of good ideas on there. We need to measure, go back and see how that is performing. But we got some other ideas, such as zoning issues that we can take a look at to generate additional industrial technology property throughout the city. So those are some of the ideas.
Okay. And then finally, Rusty was the youngest candidate in the race, and I think some people feel that they might attribute some of the support that he got to the fact that some residents want to see sort of a fresh, younger perspective. Mm-hmm. So what would your message be to those voters to try to persuade them that you're the better choice?
Well, I think you have to look at experience and maturity, and if overall, if you look at if you added up all the votes in there, I think that's what the city really voted for on last evening. If you look at it, but I reflect when I first got elected to the city council, I was the youngest council person on the council. In fact, the whole time, 8 years I was on the council, I was the youngest individual on there as well. So. But I think part of the outreach is we're a university town. We have the town and gown concept, if you will. We need to promote that. We have 50,000 students in the city, and that's one way to get them to interact with downtown and get them involved in the community. Especially those because the students aren't here full time, so you have to get them involved where you can.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure we will be seeing you out knocking on doors as we head into the November runoff. Thanks a lot for coming by.
Well, thank you for having me.